So we've got, so first of all, I'm Nick Peluso. I know many of you in the room. In fact, probably half the room's full of either Mannheim or Cox people. So I'll try to not look at them. I'll look at the rest of the people in the room since they've heard me talk about this stuff before. A little bit about me. I am responsible for a company called RMS Automotive, which is a Cox Automotive company that does business in about 20 countries. I'm responsible for the digital platforms within Mannheim and our mobile auctions as well. I've been with Mannheim about 20 years. Prior to that, I was with a company called ADT Automotive, which was acquired by Mannheim in the year 2000. And prior to that, my family was in the restaurant, hotel, and casino business. So you can see the transition from hotel, casino to auctions. 28th in AAA convention, and I'm as excited to be at this one as I was the first one, although I can't remember the first one. So a lot has happened in vehicle remarketing since I got started, and I think a lot's going to happen in the future. And really what I'm going to talk about is probably I don't want to say they're new words, or just different words that I think we'll start to see impact our business as we go forward. Part of the theme of what I'm going to talk about, and we'll go through, because I have about 19 slides. I know we got about 30 minutes, and I think that the 19 slides could actually take longer than the 30 minutes, but I do want to leave some time for questions. If you have any, or if you have any throughout the presentation, just stop me and we'll try to answer them, because I prefer to have a conversation and not worry about getting through 30 slides or 19 slides. But some themes that we're gonna talk about, and we have some slides to back it up. We're gonna talk about this word omnichannel, which when I first heard it, I had to ask my son about it. Now I know I don't look it, but I have a 40-year-old son and who plays in the technology world, and I asked him, what the heck does omnichannel mean? And he said to me, he said, Dad, I got no idea, but it probably has something to do with a Cox cable company, so why don't you go talk to them? So there was no help there. I went to one of our really smart people at the organization and said, can you tell me what omnichannel means? And he said, well, I can give you the retail definition of it. And I'll share what he shared with me so you can start to understand. I got a few slides that may take us a little deeper on that. Is he said, if you think about the store Best Buy, a lot of us, here maybe Philip you don't know because I'm not sure they have Best Buy down in Australia, but for those of you that shop at Best Buy actually, if you notice you go in the store, there's an Apple spot within the store. There's an LG spot within the store. There's a Samsung spot. And there's an expert that specializes in that part of the store. Well, they, and I'm going to use this word loosely, rent out their floor space to those companies, so they own that little private store within inside Best Buy. So that's really starting to be the omni-channel experience, and then whether you buy online or in the store and how it's delivered. But we'll talk about that, how that may apply to our space. Also, what you're not going to hear me talk about is how many or what percentage of the cars are going to go digital. Because quite honestly, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. What you're going to hear me talk about is why it doesn't matter. You're also going to hear me talk a little bit about what the term I'll use is emotional branding and why that is important. And what I mean by that when I say emotional branding is think about a brand that you have emotion about. And you could probably all think about the brand or the company that you work for. You probably have a lot more emotion or passion around that brand than the brand that I work for. If you didn't, I'd question why you're there. So emotional branding. Got a slide that talks about, sneakers or tennis shoes were sneakers or tennis shoes before Nike came along, or before Adidas came along, or before Reebok, or before Converse, or for some of us, before PF Flyers. So it's emotional branding and why that's important to the way we go forward. And the last thing you're going to hear me talk about is consumer behavior. And the reason I think that's important, and that's where we're going to start, is consumer behavior, because we and dealers and institutional customers are all consumers. And the big box retailers, the Amazons of the world, the Walmarts of the world, eBays of the world, have already taught us how to shop. We all shop a certain way. We all have the same behaviors. So why do we want to change the behaviors all of a sudden of the dealers when they look to buy cars all of a sudden because they're dealers? They have the same emotions going through. So as you look at this, what does a consumer look at today? So it's kind of odd that here I'm talking about wholesale vehicle remarketing, and I've got a slide on the screen that talks about consumer behavior. But if you start to think about it, I think it will make sense, and it really becomes much more simpler about how we look to go forward than the complex ways we try to do things now. But again, what's important to a consumer? Information, customer experience, channel agnostic, back to that omnichannel experience. Simply put, recognize me, maintain a consistent approach, empower me. These are things that consumers look for. So again, try to imagine transitioning between how a consumer, or how you as a consumer, what's important, and now when we take cars to market, from both a seller or a buyer's perspective, why would we do things different? Again, we're just going to go through and talk about a few of these. Path to purchase. I mean, a lot of information up here, but this is what today's consumer does when they start to shop. Pre-purchase. And again, you can look at what do we do when we go to a physical auction. You normally, before you go, you pull a run list, you look at cars, you do your homework. Or if you're doing it online, you do the same thing. No different than what a consumer may do in their path to purchase. And then post-purchase, what's important to them afterwards? Much like in our space, what's important after a dealer buys one of our cars? Did they have a good experience? If they had to arbitrate, was it a good process? Look at Nordstrom's and their return policy. I mean, so again, I'm not sure why we want to create new behaviors when behaviors have already been taught, and just how do we adapt or adopt those to our industry. Again, some of this is just information that at least I found interesting. An internet minute. I don't have to say a lot about this. It's just, it's kind of mind-boggling of what happens. And again, this is just all to lead you into when we start talking about omni-channel. And I'm going to introduce another word at this point, marketplace, and why that word is important and the definition behind it. Simplicity. Why do we make things so complicated? We make people, I can look at some of these faces and people's heads nodding. We make things really difficult for our dealers to do things. How they check in, how they have to check out, what their experience online. It's not a seamless thing. They buy a car online, they got to figure out how to get a gate pass, they got to figure out where to pick it up, or is it going to be delivered? Again, as we get to it. So I'm just posing a lot of questions right now in comments. We'll start to talk about the solutions for some of those things, or at least how we think they will be presented in the near future. And near future is tomorrow, not a year, not 2 years. I'm not smart enough to talk about what's going to happen. I'm not Bob Lutz. Have you guys heard about his article? What was it called? God, I just went brain dead on the. He published an article. It's coming out in the next couple days about the change in the automotive space. Kiss the good times goodbye. Interesting article you guys should read. But if you read it and you believe it, cars as we know it today are done. I'm not that smart. Simplicity pays, though. If you keep things simple, again, I think we can continue going down this path of where we need to go literally tomorrow. Delivering solutions. Again, things just to set you up for when we start talking about the omni-channel and the marketplace. So I'm going to start to get to that because I know I'll be up here rambling and bell will go off or whatever it is, and I'll be out of time. A little bit about our current state of where we are and where we've evolved to. And again, I see some people in the room that have been in the industry longer than I have, and they can look back at this and go, wow. Now, I wasn't around in 1938. Some people would say I was, but I wasn't. But this is where we've come in our industry, and I think it's going to be interesting where the industry goes over the next couple of years. And like I said, I don't think it's going to be all of a sudden this huge push to digital. If it does, it will go there naturally. It's not going to be that, at least the place I work is pushing for cars all of a sudden to go down that path. And this is what I talked about. This is not simple. This is kind of the process that we go through today. Manufacturer, what happens to rental car, fleet companies, cars go to salvage, franchise dealers buy, lenders, repos, consumers, independent dealers, junk, crushed. I mean, it ain't easy. I mean, we've taken a very simple process and made it very, very complex. Okay, so really to the heart of the presentation. There are not that many more slides. So, omnichannel, just to be clear in the definition. Again, where we started, one-to-one, one channel. Think of maybe physical auction only. Today, you can buy physical auction, you can buy at a mobile auction, you can buy in the digital space. Tomorrow, you can have access to all three. But really, at the end of the day, it's when it's seamless between the two. So really, as a good example, maybe of this today would be Amazon. Amazon.com would probably be a good example, or Best Buy would be a good example of the omnichannel experience. And again, no one benefit, no single platform. It's just an omnichannel. We shouldn't care how a dealer buys a car. What we should care about is creating simple tools that provide an easy solution for them to do business where, when, and how they want to do business with us. Now again, pretty easy to say it, or maybe not so easy to say it, but harder to do. We'll talk a little bit about maybe the how. But before I go, the emotional branding and the how kind of tie together. So, and my team is tired of me talking about this. So I'm going to try to share a picture with you of what we referred to, or what I referred to as the marketplace. And that's really where I think our industry starts to evolve to. So what do I mean by the marketplace? So think about a mall. Think about the mall in your neighborhood. And when you go into that mall, why I picked this example, I don't know. I get questioned about it all the time. Excuse me one second. Think about you go into the mall and you're looking for a product from Coach. So for me, if I was going into Coach, I buy a lot of their jackets. Somebody else may be buying shoes, or somebody may be buying a handbag. I ain't quite buying a handbag there. So, but you're going into the mall looking for a product from Coach. You go into the mall and you see the Coach store at one end of the mall, and Nordstrom's at the other end of the mall. And Nordstrom sells Coach products. Or at least in my example, they do. Nordstrom sells Coach products. Why do you go to one store or the other? Again, nobody has to answer that question. But most likely, it's because of the emotion or the connection that you have with that brand, or the experience you have with that brand. So as we start to think about this marketplace, and I talked about this emotional branding and why your brand is more important than our brand to you, is you start to create this marketplace where you create this virtual mall of these stores that allow dealers to shop where and how they want to shop, and you start to create the experience within your store within the virtual mall. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples, but I won't use any real company names. I'll just use them as examples. So if you were to think about a virtual mall, which I believe is where we'll end up in this omni-channel marketplace world, is you would have a site that has traffic. And by the way, when I say a site, the marketplace is not just digital. The marketplace includes walking into the physical auction or walking into a mobile auction. All of those sites could have stores within this mall. But when you go into the mall, you start to choose how you want to do business. So manufacturer A may have a store within this mall. Now, that manufacturer may have a single sign-on capability from their own internal operating system to shop within that mall, and they may have the systems, the processes, the benefits to that dealer to go directly into that store. But as we're moving down the road with more and more cars coming back, they all also need the independent dealers. So the independent dealers, and this is now through technology, not through anything else, you now have the ability to technology to allow someone to come through the front door of the mall and search through all the private stores for their experience and their shopping for inventory. So as we continue to move forward, you're going to start to see, I believe, companies, and as an example, I think it was Facebook last week announced that they were creating their automotive marketplace. And I think this is going to be the trend that you're going to see, is because as I started this presentation, the big box retailers have already started to train us how to shop. So when you think about you going to Amazon, you go into Amazon and you search, but you're actually searching amongst many private stores within that mall. And you may or may not go back to one because of the experience that you had or how they delivered or what the special they were having on that service. So I can tell you from our perspective and where we sit is we no longer are going to continue to talk about, oh, you got to sell this percentage of cars digital or this percentage of cars physical, because it doesn't matter. It really matters what's important to you and to the dealer, and to make sure that we make that process as seamless and as efficient as possible. I'm going to stop right there for a moment. I got a few more slides just to answer any questions or take questions at this point about anything that I may have shared. We're going to get through this quick. I don't know how much time we've got left, but 15 minutes or so? 10 minutes? So, a couple more things. Again, maybe just back to the emotional branding. I think this is also key in this whole piece. When you create these private stores within the mall, like I said, everything seems to get elevated. You know, again, we've done some research on this and played around a little bit, but you start to see quality of cars go up, participation by the seller goes up, their participation in the marketing goes up, and it's overall better experience for everybody. And again, back to the marketplace. Don't have a lot more, guys. Really, it's about creating the marketplace, and I will share with you that we know that over the next several weeks and months that several people are launching these marketplaces into the industry. And not just traditional places that are, you know, the companies that we talk about today. So a little bit, I hate to say it's protecting, but it's a little bit, this is coming. In fact, there was a presentation, well, I did not see it, but if the blockchain presentation. In a way, blockchain is an enabler of creating a marketplace. I don't believe they said it that way, but it is an enabler of creating a marketplace. And again, just some of the benefits of a marketplace. I think my last couple of slides are probably bios on me or really. I mean, this is really, I guess, the closer at the end of it. Yeah, 10 slides on me at the end. No, this really is the closer. If you think about it, you know, where Amazon started, where they've gone, and now what are they doing? And in fact, if there's anybody in here that owns auctions, you may have seen Amazon is now buying up property near many of our auction locations, because many of our auction locations are near airports. And because they've now realized that in this marketplace, next day delivery doesn't work. It has to be same day delivery. It's part of the benefits of the marketplace, so they need to be in those areas. Same thing's going to happen with us. All these things are going to cause us to expedite and speed up our processes and require us to compete with customers or companies like this, or they soon will be in our space. With that, ain't got any more, but I'll be more than happy to answer any questions about that or anything else that you guys want to throw at me.
I've got a quick
Yeah, Mike.
maybe comment.
Yeah.
This seems to come from a buyer perspective, how the buyer experiences.
Mm-hmm.
In our world, it seems that the sellers believe that there's some advantage to the buyers knowing them.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about your Coach example.
Mm-hmm.
You go into Nordstrom or you go to the Coach store. How do you get the sellers to think and trust this environment?
It's a great question, and quite honestly, the sellers that we've talked to about this idea of their brand, their thing, they grasp it really quickly. And it's kind of interesting because as a guy that grew up in the physical auction, when you think about how we set a lane up at the physical auction, we set it up by, we have the World Omni cars, or you have the Nissan cars, or you have the Ford cars. And you take pride in your lane, what's going on, and you want dealers in your lane, and you run the promotions about your cars. For some reason, when we move to the digital world and those worlds, we don't do that. All of a sudden, it's about go to blank.com, and we forget about the seller. Actually, what I think we're going to see on the buyer side, Mike, is what's really going to become important is personalization and what's relevant to them. So, you think about Amazon again. When you go to Amazon and you sign on, immediately you get recommendations based on your past history. We all have that information, but yet we choose not to serve it up in a way that makes it relevant to them. I often say, or my good friend Ed Berkowitz says, it's like our sites have amnesia. We signed in yesterday and we did something, created a bunch of searches, looked for cars, bought some stuff, and we signed in tomorrow and it was like we were never there again. We're just never there. So when you create the marketplace and you allow, from a seller experience, for them to think about the only thing that's important is their brand in that mall. And then you come from a buyer side and you say, now let's create a buyer experience that's personalized to them, that's relevant to them. The two start to work. The two start to work really good together, and you can create the right marketing campaigns and the right traction for where people to go. I mean, there's an old expression, excuse my language here, there's an old expression when I first got in the auction business, somebody said there's an ass for every seat. But yet we just don't know how to show them which seat they're supposed to sit in. I mean, we make it very difficult for them to find it. And so the technology and the data will start to align that thing together. But it's, like I said, it's an interesting journey, and most of this is not about technology. It starts with the right mindset, and the technology will come quickly behind it. But thanks for the question. Anybody else? Well, guys, I appreciate you coming in. Again, it's a teaser. We got 30 minutes. It's tough to go deep on some of this stuff. But like I said, I think you'll start to hear and see more about marketplace, omnichannel, personalization, what's relevant to you, whether it's buyer or seller going forward. Thank you.